Well, good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the USA or overseas. I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirt, as I've been known here. And my method is simpler, faster, better. And I'm actually not in my normal spot, so the lighting is a little bit off, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to have our live stream with Dr. Pauline. So, Dr. Pauline, over to you. You're in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, I'm in Doha, Qatar,
Doha.
where, yeah, Doha, Qatar. Doha is the capital of Qatar. And
Uh-huh.
Qatar is this relatively small country, sort of
Right. Yeah.
tacked on to the end of Saudi. It's a country in its own right.
Right.
Um, but it's one of the smaller known Middle Eastern countries. And
Hmm.
it's in the 40s now. And actually, this is cool for this time of year.
Right.
The 40s, it's challenging.
Well, I'm in Palm Springs, not Phoenix. Actually, Palm Springs was not as hot as Phoenix, unbelievably, because overnight it's more in the desert, so it cools down more. So,
Mm.
yeah, Phoenix is pretty brutal. It's up there around the 40-degree mark, similar to you. So, yes, I understand. And so, is it part of the United Arab Emirates, UAE, or not? Is
It
okay,
is part of the UAE, yeah.
right. So,
Along with, the Bahrains and Abu Dhabi, Dubai,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gulf
So again,
countries.
for our travelers amongst us, they typically refer to the UAE as that central part of the planet, and lots of activity that goes on there. So, talking of activity, I know we're going to talk specifically about how you help medical professionals and other professionals, but give us a little bit about your background. And you weren't born in Doha, I know that. So, give us a little,
No.
little quick history of Dr. Pauling.
Oh, okay. So Dr. Pauline was born on the other side of Doha, in in a much even smaller country,
Yeah.
Barbados.
Okay.
It's the most easterly of the Caribbean islands. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's a chain of islands between North America and South America.
Right.
Very rich heritage because of the history of the region. We had the influx of Europeans, people of Asian heritage, African
Right.
heritage, Middle Eastern, Persian heritage, you name it, we've got it there. So
Right.
it's a proper melting pot. And that's where I come from. I studied medicine many moons ago,
Right.
after I had my daughter. So that's a whole other conversation. And I became an anesthetist because it is the best specialty ever. Sorry, everybody else, but it is. No bias there at all. And it is a small country. And I thought, you know what, I want to see how anesthetics or anesthesiology is done in other parts of the world. And I had an opportunity to move to the UK, so I did,
Right.
with my daughter. And I was there for a few years. And then I got what is known as the 7-year itch. And I thought, you know what? The world's a big place. I can go somewhere else and see something else and do anesthesia there.
Right.
So I ended up in Doha. Hello, lovely Nupi.
Ah, her ears were burning, right? We
I
were.
know we were singing her praises earlier. So yeah,
Yeah.
so now I'm in Doha, and along that journey of my clinical career, I did lots of other exciting things. I worked in clinical governance, which I
Mhm.
still do. I have a passion for quality and safety, so that's high on my agenda as a clinician.
Right.
I also did a lot of work in medical education. It started off with just, the apprenticeship system of medicine and the need to pay it forward. All the good things I learned and to change some of the bad things that I learned. And
Mhm.
that evolved into leadership coaching, um, and professional coaching, career coaching
Mhm.
for doctors. So I've had a lovely, varied, um, I think, exciting career
Right.
for my short time in it.
Actually, it's funny. I love doing lives because I always mention to people that, you know, we're more alike than we are disalike. So we have some
Mm.
similar things in passion. I'm you know, as a process whiz, I'm very passionate about safety first. So I've done a lot of safety first things. And like you, I've taken the opportunity from my very humble beginnings in the UK. I was born to a pretty rough council estate there, aka a project here in the US. And after 15 years of kind of putting up with that and going through some pretty hard times, I bought a motorcycle and escaped, literally. Rode out on my motorcycle and never went back. So, and then since then, I've been in 27 different industries, 6 different countries, and it's kind of interesting because it gives you a wholesomeness that is difficult to always share with people, particularly when they might say, well, you know, why would I use a process whiz, Bruce? You know, what's the point of using a process whiz? And I'm sure you get that statement or that question yourself, right? Why would you use a multidisciplinary professional like yourself to help with coaching and leadership? So what are your thoughts on that? Because I obviously have mine, but it's more about your thoughts today.
More about my thoughts. It's fab to see you too, Dr. Nupi,
Yeah,
our personal cheerleader.
yes,
Um,
absolutely. Both of us. She cheers us both on.
so
So.
she does. She does. So yeah, I think part of the issue for us as doctors is we come from a culture of see one, do one, teach one, with the expectation that once you've seen something once, you're going to be the expert at it.
Right.
Once you've done something once, you're going to be the expert at it. And that's a very entrenched culture.
Right. It's pretty naive as well, right?
Yeah. And the concept of being able to expand outside of that and go, actually, no, I need more information. No, I need more experience. No, I need more help. I need more support, is viewed as a weakness. It's viewed as you are not able to cope with what the system needs from you.
Right.
And actually, the system doesn't need that from you. That's what the system wants from you. Because that's what we've been told.
Right.
But the system doesn't need that. What the system needs is well-balanced doctors who are not just trained in their clinical skills, but are trained in what are in the non-technical skills. And if you look outside of medicine, in the corporate world, executive coaching is well established. It's been around for years and years and years and years. And it's not just doctors who suffer like this. You know, if you pick another industry, say lawyers, they are very much under that same pressure to constantly perform at 100%. So it's not just unique to doctors.
Right.
But there is an obvious difference here. When I'm under pressure and stress and tension, I can make a mistake. And that mistake can be anything from, well, that's just a bit of annoyance and we have to do it again, to somebody's life has now been put at risk.
Right.
And that's a major difference. And one of the things, as an anesthetist, we work in a specialty that's compared to the airline industry.
Right.
Yep. That same sort of intense, you got to get it right the first time because there is no second time sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there are so many fail safes, so many checks and double checks within the system, the airline industry system, that is not paralleled in the medical field. That it really does irritate me sometimes because we work within a system that often sets us up for failure.
Right.
Whereas in the airline industry, it doesn't work like that. If you've got a light on, the plane doesn't move, right? Until you've sorted out that light. And that works to a point in medicine, but the reality is sometimes you can't wait for that light to be fixed. If the patient comes with what they come with, and sometimes you just have to get on with it. And in that environment, we still haven't found the tools, the processes, the resources to cope with that intensity and to cope with that workload. A pilot is only allowed to fly so many hours. That's it. It's done. A truck driver is only allowed to drive so many hours, and then it's mandatory that you must rest.
Right.
Those systems have only just started coming into place in medicine. And quite frankly, they're very soft.
Right.
They're very soft.
Well,
and it makes it quite difficult sometimes to actually do the right thing for the patient and for the staff who have to take care of that patient.
Right.
And this is why the coaching is so important, because we actually have to learn to deal with these challenges in a healthier way than we have been doing it before.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not sure if you had studied my profile or not, but I've been in the airline business since on and off since 2006. So thank you for using that parallel. But interesting enough, it never used to be like that. And in fact, one of the roles I used to be in a repair hangar for aircraft, and I was what they called shipside support, and we used to repair very old aircraft and give them 7 years more active flying life, including the modern technology. And I've never forgotten the oldest plane we worked on was a 1953. It was a P3, and it came in, it was shot to pieces. It looked like a bunch of junk, which was the way they wanted it to stay, because it was an enemy spotting aircraft. So they wanted to fool the enemy. But it's funny, when we took it apart, we took about 27,000 pieces off of it. When we took it apart and had to start rebuilding it, there were actually no as-built drawings or diagrams for it. So the airline industry has come a long way, come a long way in a hurry. And unfortunately, it's come a long way through, massive hiccups in safety compliance where, lives have been lost. So,
yeah.
When an aircraft disaster happens, it's very noticeable because typically the volume of people. But when a medical faux pas happens, it's typically, one case at a time. So I think part of it is volume sensitivity, and part of it is, of course, an aircraft issue is big news,
It's very public.
For public, yeah. So it gets a lot more attention. But the compliance thing is interesting, and it's funny. Yes, you do have to coach in a certain way to get people not only to be creative when they have to solve an emergency problem, which is, what you have to do, I'm sure, many times, but also, how can you be creative, but how can you be in full safety compliance all at the same time, right? So that's where the stress comes from, because I know, I know when we were getting these aircraft ready to go, put a real life human in to go test drive them again, literally, on the flight line, as they called it, we used to go through all sorts of those dilemmas, because, all the error codes used to come up and people used to say, well, is it really an error code, or is it this or that? And then ultimately the pilot would have the last say, kind of like you as the anesthetologist there, in terms of, do we keep going or do we stop, right? And so that's very, very similar. I love the analogy. Good job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but it does put you under a lot of stress. I know, again, back to my, in the hangar days, I know when we were getting ready for the aircraft to go to the flight line, as they called it, which is, your version of surgery, going to the surgery center or being in surgery or being in the operating in the OR, that's the point of no return, basically. It's either going to work or it's not going to work at that point. So yeah.
And I think that Dr. 𝐾𝐨𝐜𝐿 raised a valid point there. And it's about teaching people. The thing is, medicine has changed a lot.
Yes,
it's changed a lot in 100 years. The amount of investigations we can do, the amount of services we provide, and how we deliver that care has not kept up with that speed of change. It was only maybe, I can honestly say 20 years ago, if a patient came into hospital and they might have an x-ray tomorrow morning. You know, you only got an MRI if you were in a certain hospital, or a CT scan. There were only certain blood tests that could be done out of hours. It was very different 20 years ago. Today, a patient comes into hospital and they can have a CT, MRI, you know, every blood test under the sun, and be in theater in an hour, 45 minutes. Okay. And but we still use almost the same amount of people that we had 20 years ago to get that done.
Right.
And when we do integrate people into medicine, often the integration is not holistic, it's not full.
Right.
And as services develop, there's a period of time where you have to figure out how everything fits together. And for many institutions where, for instance, the NHS, where healthcare is free, there are a lot of financial limitations on how those services get provided, because sometimes the money just isn't there.
Right.
And I know people think that it should just happen, but nothing just happens. When you bake a cake, it doesn't just happen. You have to have a recipe. You have to know what bits you want, in what proportion, when you're going to add what. And the more complicated the cake gets, the more crucial every little piece is. You know, if you decide to make a cake only out of egg whites, that has different implications than if you make a cake out of whole eggs. And the skill that you need to do that increases. You know, when you decide to bake a mousse, when you decide, you know, the skill level goes up and up and up and up and up.
Right.
And you've got to be able to find ways to adjust for that. Yeah. And this is another reason why coaching is so important, because doctors and many other healthcare professionals have been kind of left in the position where you've gone super specialized, right? It's fantastic. You can bake the most glorious of mousses, but then when you bring it to the table, people are having breakfast. Right. You're like, well, okay, I made this fantastic cake, but it doesn't work because we're not at dinner time now. I mean, it sounds silly to put it like that, but I'm trying to find ways to speak to people that without using all the jargon, so that they understand where the challenges are and why something like coaching and mentoring is so important, and why it's so easy for physicians to get burnt out. If your specialty is making mousse cakes, and every time you turn up, it's breakfast, and then you get criticized for that, it's soul destroying.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it takes an hour to make a mousse, it takes an hour to make a mousse. If you ask me to make it in 40 minutes, the quality is going to fall. Right? If you want me to do more with less, the quality is what suffers. Right. And that's what happens with medicine. We're asking people to do more and more and more, and the quality is falling. And we take that very personally. When we can't deliver the care that we want to give, it's really hard on us. The assumption is made that for many of us, we come in, we do whatever, and we leave, and we just drop it at the door. But for many of us, we take this home with us. And it's part of the reason we suffer so much, because we actually care. And we take these things home with us. And then what happens is we try to compensate. We try to do more. We try to give more. We try to stay longer hours. We skip lunch. We don't take breaks. And all of these things lead to poor well-being among healthcare professionals. And once your healthcare professional is not healthy, they can't provide you with the best possible care.
Right. Yeah. And actually, it's funny because you draw a lot of parallels in, what I do. I try and take a holistic approach as well. And it's interesting because, and I de-jargonize everything like you do. That's why I call my method simpler, faster, better, because those are basically the simplest words to describe, how to look at removing wasted steps, time, and money. And that's my whole deal. That's, those two sets of three things. That's what I'm all about. But yes, in the type of profession that you're in and supporting, yes, there is a lot of care and concern and massive amounts of stress. I know in my own world, when it's complicated and there's a deadline, and there's high quality requirements to be met, and you do take it home, and you do care, and you do. I wouldn't say worry, but you do over process things for sure. And so I'm sure.
Oh, we definitely worry. We worry a lot.
Yeah.
We worry, we cry, we fret, we get angry, we get upset. It's very personal. It really is very personal for us.
Yeah, I completely get it and understand. So so what are some of the things? Tell us about a recent success story maybe that you'd like to share, because I think telling success stories are really good for people to hear and learn from.
It's really interesting working with doctors, because doctors who are unhappy with their careers in medicine tend to fall into two groups. There's the group of people who go, I'm unhappy, I'm out, I'm going to leave. And those people are very good at finding help and support.
Right. Oh, okay.
They're very good at going, you know what, this is all I know, this is all I knew, and now I want something else, and I know I need help to get there. I don't work with those people because it's just not possible for me to be all things to everyone. I would love to be able to do that, but no one can do that. And so my focus is on those doctors who are unhappy in their careers, but they don't want to leave medicine.
Okay, they choose to stay.
They want to stay because this is their calling. This is what they want to do, but they've got lost in the great big bad world of medicine. They got on what I call the travelator of medicine. You get on it, you move in one direction, you don't get off, you don't ask questions. Sometimes you don't even know where it's going, but you just do what the other doctors behind you did, right? You don't step off of it. And I'm sure Dr. Nupi can relate to this.
Illuminate on that one.
Yeah, can relate to this. I can relate to this.
Right.
So you end up unhappy in this career that you've dedicated your life to, and you thought you were going to love and do forever. Paradoxically, those are the people who struggle to ask for help and support.
Right.
Because your identity is so tied into what it means to be a doctor. And what it means to be a doctor is what you've been told. Right. And it's you told you're dedicated. Dedicated is another word for you don't have work-life balance. Right. Right. That's a dedicated doctor. You're a good doctor doesn't make mistakes. Right. That's another attribute of a good doctor. You can never make a mistake. You can never be tired. You can never need a break. You can never be hungry. A good doctor always puts the patient first, always. So if you're in the middle of a horrible divorce, your child's just been diagnosed with cancer, and you've just been, and you have just lost your home, that's irrelevant, because if you were a good doctor, you would just put the patient first. So these are the things that we are taught. So when we start struggling, because we are human beings, we think it's because we're not enough. We think it's because the life that we thought we were going to have, we don't deserve it. And we think that we're the only person who feels like this, because when you look around, everybody else seems to be getting on. So you start struggling in your career and you can't work out why. Right. And this is how you start heading down the burnout path. Don't get me wrong. There is the issue of the amount of work we have to do, the time pressures. There's all of these things. Those things will never go away in medicine. Right. But it's all those other things that have never, ever been addressed. From medical school to your junior doctor training, to your specialist training, to your life as a consultant. Those things have never been addressed. You have never been told that it's okay to be a human being like everybody else. So it's really interesting when doctors come to me and say, I need help. Because a lot of the times they know they need it, but they're not ready to accept it. Because in their eyes, it's a failure. Right. So when I have a client that can actually step past all these stories that we've been told and step past those stories that they tell themselves about what it means to be a good doctor, that alone in itself is something to celebrate.
Right.
And every single one of my clients have to be able to do that before they can work with me. Because getting help is not a passive event.
No.
If you drop a stack of papers on the floor and people rush to help you pick them up and you stand there watching them doing it, they're going to go, hang on a minute. Well, one, these papers are probably not important. And two, why am I helping somebody who can't be bothered to help themselves?
Right.
Right? Getting help is not a passive event. You need to be brave. You need to be able to see past a lot of preconditioning.
Right.
So it takes that kind of client to work with me, and it's really tough for them. And I get it. I get it because I had to work through these things myself. So when I work with a client, and I don't want to be too specific.
No, it's good.
I don't want to be too specific. When a client comes to me and says, I'm unhappy at my job, I'm doing all these things I don't want to do, I'm doing all these other jobs outside of my clinical activity, which I don't get time to do, I don't get paid to do, I don't see my family, I'm stressed all the time, I come home and I take it out on my children, I don't do anything I used to enjoy doing, and I've just lost myself, and I'm so unhappy and I don't know what to do.
Right.
And one of the first things that we have to work out is, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And nobody ever been asked that as a doctor. Who are you? What do you want? We've been asked what specialty you want to get in. But nobody said, well, what kind of hospital do you want to work in? Because working in a small district general hospital as an anesthetist is very different from working in an academic institution as an anesthetist, as an example.
Yep.
How much money do you want to make? Do you want to work nights? Do you want to work weekends? What does your partner do? Do you have a partner? Do you want a partner? Do you have kids? Do you want to have kids? How's your health?
Right.
And this is the sort of thing that we start with. And then once we get that foundation in, then you have these wonderful moments where people go, you know what? I actually don't want to be head of my department. What I want to do is X. And I've had this with clients where they've suddenly gone, you know what? I'm doing this job, I'm head of whatever, and I don't want to do it. But somebody told me I had to do it. Somebody told me it was my turn to do it. I don't want to do it. And being able to empower my client to be able to go back into work and say, you know what? I'm giving up this position. I don't want to do it. Or, you know what? You've given me this position. You don't pay me to do it, and you haven't given me any time. So now we need to negotiate about this. Doctors are not taught to negotiate.
Right.
It is a privilege to care for the patient. That is true. 100%. It is a privilege to care for a patient. But my time is also valuable. And if I am working, I should be compensated for that. And compensation doesn't necessarily mean money. It could just mean that you take something else off my plate. I do one less clinical session so that I can do this job and I can do it in my work time. And I don't have to take it home with me and be saying to my child, you know what, mommy can't come watch Finding Nemo with you. No, you know how old I am, Finding Nemo. Mommy can't watch Finding Nemo with you. Daddy can't come watch your cricket match because I'm busy doing the paperwork for X, Y, and Z. And the last thing that's really wonderful when I work with my clients is when they then, at the end of it all, can say, you know what, I know what I want to do with my life. And what I want now is a plan to get there. So some of my clients have opened their own businesses, something that they thought they would never be able to do. And I've been able to help them do that, to say, right, how are we going to do this? What business model do you want in place? How are we going to fit this into what's happening in your life already? What do we need to keep? What do we need to get rid of? I've had clients who've done simple things like take back up a musical instrument.
Right.
Go back to the library and start reading poetry. Join the choir. It's so heartwarming when the first time I meet a client, so many of my clients, the first time I meet them, they're in tears. They're crying. And we get sort of down the line and I click on the call and they're smiling at me. And it's like, it's a whole different visage, just a different person.
Right.
And that is one of the most amazing things for me as a coach, to be able to cease singing, to be able to have a client who goes from every time we meet to be crying, and no, that's not my fault that they're crying, to a client that looks forward to speaking with me, going, you know what, Pauline, I did this, I did that, I spoke to this person, I've negotiated, I've met this guy, I've networked with this one, and you see them come alive as a person.
Right. Well,
And
good.
that is so important.
Awesome. So we are kind of nearing, I could talk with you forever, so thank you for that.
And I can talk forever.
We will go back and answer your questions and comments. So thank you for being so loyal. And so one little fun thing about Pauline, that what's Pauline discovered that she's taken back for herself, because, you know, as a coach, you often become the mentee as well when you're a coach, right? So what's a fun thing that you've taken back or put back into your life that you've gotten rid of? So,
oh man, so much. There's
favorite thing you can talk about, put it that way.
I'll tell you what coaching has really done for me. It's made me so brave. I mean, I thought I was brave before. I mean, I had my daughter when I was 17, and I still became a doctor, and I still went on to have this fabulous career. And I thought I was being brave then.
Right.
But you know what? There were so many little things in my life that I had been taught. Those stories, oh my gosh, those stories are so powerful. They're so powerful. You don't realize how powerful they are until you really start digging deep into them and working with someone who can help you realize these things. And the thing that has brought me the most excitement recently is scuba diving.
Awesome. Under
Something
the waves.
that I never, ever thought I'd be able to do. A year ago, I couldn't even swim.
Awesome.
I couldn't even swim a year ago. And I mean, there's so many things. My life has just exploded in so many ways since I embraced this way of thinking. But the thing that probably jolts me the most now is how my ability to just go for something.
Good for you.
I used to have so many hang-ups about what other people would think and how people would perceive me, and well, I can't do that because of, and there's so many reasons that I would find not to live.
Yeah.
And because I had to do that work, inner work myself, that I now do with my clients, it has brought me to a place of joy that, I know it sounds corny, but it's actually undescribable. The first time I had my tri-dive and I was underwater and I was watching the little fishies going by and I was touching the bottom of the ocean and I was looking up and thinking, that's not the sky.
Right.
I mean, it was like, I felt like a true superhero. I felt limitless. And that's a moment a couple of weeks ago when I realized, you know what, Pauline, you have come so far. You have done so much and you are so brave. But I had to do the work. I had to do the work to get to this point. I had to be invested in myself.
Got to be the product of the product. So if you are watching this as #replay, we know we have Dr. 𝐾𝐨𝐜𝐿 with us live, and some others might be on but not commenting. So if you want to be tag up with a #bold Dr. Pauline, what's the best way for Dr. #bold Pauline to be reached?
The easiest way is probably via my website.
Okay.
Doctors Caring for Doctors. And the doctors is the full word, doctors, not DR.
Say that slowly again for me.
Doctors Caring for Doctors. All in one word.
Awesome.
.com. Yeah. Because that's what I want to do. I want to change the narrative of medicine. I want to change how we view our medical careers. I want to change how other people view us as healthcare professionals. And I want us to develop, sustain, and embrace a culture of caring for each other and ourselves.
Awesome. What a great way to finish up. I could talk for a long time. Again, my time is limited this morning. Apologies for that. And you just got off shift, so I know you must be pretty tired as well.
Oh, I'm all energized now. I could
all fired up. Yeah, I know it. It's funny how lives do that. All right. So again, if you're intrigued to learn more from Dr. Pauline, I'm sure you can also be found here on LinkedIn. You seem to be pretty responsive, or doctorscaringfordoctors.com. Is that right?
And Dr. 𝐁𝐈 has kindly put it in the comments for anybody.
Oh, isn't she amazing? She is also an amazing host, so she knows what it's
like. My greater practitioner.
I know. All right. Well, I'm just going to do my little outtake on where people can find me. So let me just do that, and just don't go away, and then we'll say goodbye. So, all right.
You're frustrated that you have no time and you just hate it. And you lost your mind. You're running around the kids and the spouse, and the business that was once your passion has got you burnt out. So, consult with Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. He'll help you find the truth so that you can do you first. See, it's all about simpler, faster, better, so you can save massive amounts of time and money instead of longing for the day where you can finally kick your feet up. Oh, do yourself a favor. Call up Bruce. He'll tell you about process cleanup.
See, we both do process cleanup. Amazing.
I love that video, by the way.
Oh, that's Devin. Devin is an amazing young man. And so, yeah, he's a fellow LinkedIn connection, and he helped some other live stream hosts with their stuff. And he did a great job. He captured those moments of frustration that unfortunately all my clients that do agree to work with me, they have to get to all of those points first, which is frustrating for me, but understandable for me. So kind of like you understand where the doctor's at before they are ready to work with you. So, all right, Dr. Pauline. Well, thank you for coming straight from shift to chit chat with us. Thank you, Dr. 𝐁𝐈. And if you are watching this as #replay, you can still ask your questions. I will go ahead and post it before I have to jump in the car here. And thanks again, Dr. Pauline. And please stay in touch, and let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you help other doctors provide stellar services to us all. So,
thank you so much. I appreciate being on.